Welcome to another episode of Random Linux Tools Explained. My name is Robert Wolfhard, and if you're here for the first time, then this is all about randomly chosen Linux command line tools you can use for your day-to-day work and the Linux command line. And to make this a little bit more interesting for you, there is added a small challenge for me, and the challenge is that I'm not prepared at all. Instead, there is a tool, a command line tool randomly chosen, and then I have to explain this tool, and I want to explain this tool, what this tool can be used for, how you can use this tool at best, the command line options, and so on. And if there are some tweaks, tricks, tips around the tool worth mentioning. So it's all about Linux command line tools. Let's start with sharing my screen and selecting a tool. Let me share my screen. Here we are. So, and we have here the folder tools, and there I have the repository tools.txt. These tools are taken from the shell toolbox, and then I have the script, and the script choose tool.sh chooses or selects randomly one single command line tool. To explain, let's mix the tools, and the winner is getent. Okay. The winner is getent. For the ones who tune in lately, we are talking now about the tool getent. Here we are on the screen, getent. So, clear. Let's talk about the tool getent. Getent is a tool that can give you the information, the content of system databases. For instance, the user database of the system or the group database of the system. So if I would come to you and ask you what users are defined on your system, then you typically will show me the content of the file etc passvd. etc passvd is the file where all the local defined users on the system are available or are shown, are noted. We have within the file etc passvd for every single user on the system, we have a line and all the information about the user. But these are only the local users on the system. You can, if you want to, connect the Linux system with an Active Directory, for instance, or you can connect your Linux system into an LDAP directory, to manage the users within your Active Directory domain or within your LDAP environment. And there has to be a way to include these users into the users your system knows. And the way it works is a library called the name service switch. There is a library called the name service switch, and this name service switch is configured within this file, the nameserviceswitch.conf. And within the nameserviceswitch.conf, there is the information if we talk about the passvd database of the system, the passvd database on the system. Then please first get the users from etc passvd, and then second, please go to my Active Directory, please go to my LDAP directory, for instance. And if you want to read your entire user base, no matter if the users are defined locally within etc passvd or they are defined within the connected Active Directory domain, for instance, then you can use the getent tool for listing all these users. For instance, getent passvd asks the name service switch of the system for the content of the database of the system database passvd, and the system database passvd contains the locally defined users within etc passvd and all the users within your Active Directory domain, for instance. So if the system I'm currently on would be within or would be a member of an Active Directory domain, then get and passwd could list additionally all these Active Directory users. Most of the time, the Active Directory membership is configured in a way that not all the users are listed from the domain, just because there could be thousands of users available, and get and passwd would give you a really large list. So you wouldn't see all the users, yeah, if you just call get and passwd, but you can get one single entry from the system database passwd by calling get and passwd, and then the key for the user you want to retrieve. Yeah, let's say I want to see the information about a user called test123. Get and passwd test123 gives me exact this one single line that shows all the information about the user test123. Yeah, and the same would go if you would take an Active Directory user or a user from an external database, from an external user database. Yeah, so get and passwd is a connection between the system database on one side, yeah, and you on the other side. And you have in the middle, you have an API as a collection of libraries, these name server switch libraries. There are some system databases available. You can ask with get and, for instance, we have get and group for all the groups available on the system. Yeah, show me a special group, show me the group Redis, for instance, and the members of this group. Or perhaps you know the file etc hosts for locally configured DNS or name resolutions or name to IP address associations. Yeah, and get and hosts, yeah, would ask this system database, the host system database, for a special host, for instance, for localhost. Do we have localhost? Yes, we have localhost with the IP version 6 address : 1. Or get and another system database would be the services database. Yeah, get and services SSH, for instance, shows you that the service SSH belongs to or is connected to TCP port 22. This is again a system database. The local services are defined within etc services. Yeah, there is always a file named after the service, after the database. Yeah, and then you can, if you configure the name service switch accordingly, then you can connect external database to this local defined database. Yeah, and the get and tool is the connection for reading information from this local database. Yeah. Okay. So this is the get and tool. If you want to connect additional user databases into your Linux system, and then you have to connect the information about the users via the name server switch, and you need a second way. The second way is used for authentication. Yeah, if you want to authenticate the user, not just get the information about the user name and the home directory, login shell, and so on, but you want to authenticate the user too, then you have to modify a second library, a second collection of libraries. These are the plug-able authentication modules. Yeah, and these plug-able authentication modules, if you really like or want to connect your Linux system to a different or to an external user management system, yeah, then you need to configure the PAM system, plug-able authentication module system too. Yeah. But getent, the randomly chosen tool, is the tool that reads the information you wanna or you need from a system database. Just not do a cat etc passwd, but do a getent passwd instead. And instead of calling grab redis etc group to get the information about the redis group, do a get and group redis to get information about the group, and now you will get information that is connected via an external database tool. Okay, so this is the purpose of the getent tool. Okay, great. So we have the first tool. Let's go to a second one. Back to the, no, not to the etc, back to the tools directory, and let's choose another tool, a second one, mixing the tools. And for now, the winner is root. Okay, the winner is root. Let's talk about root. Let's update the banner here. Okay, so let's talk about root. Root is a tool for managing the routing table on your system. I need to say that the root, or I have to say that the root command is a deprecated command. It could be the case that you are on a system and the root command isn't available on the system, just because it is a really old command, and there is today a better, more modern command available for managing the routing table on a system, and this command is the IP command. IP can do everything you need to do with the IP stack of the system, managing interfaces, managing IP addresses, managing routing. But for now, let's talk about the root, the legacy root command. The root command needs to be run as root user. So I call root via sudo root prints the current routing table. And what you see here is that you have two entries within the routing table. The first entry, or the last entry here, is the so-called local interface root. My interface here has an IP address associated with it from this IP range, and therefore we don't need a gateway. Instead, we simply put the packet on the wire at the interface ETH0. Then we have a default gateway, and the default gateway is this. And if you call the root command with the -n command line switch, then you will get a numeric output. Numeric output means there won't be a DNS resolution, no resolving of the IP address backwards to the host name. So you will have the information exactly what IP address is the gateway for which destination. So this is the routing table of your system. Again, this is the default route. Default route is the destination 0000 with the same net mask 0000. And the gateway here is the system with this IP address. And this is a way the routing table on a system typically looks like. You have on a system your network interface configured with an IP address, and the IP address is an address from an IP space associated with a network. And then you have one route one network, local network root for this network interface, and this root is connected or simply says that if we need to send a packet to someone who is within our own network, just put the packet, just throw the packet to the wire at the interface ETH0 here, for instance, and then we need a second route. Typically, we want to reach the internet, we want to reach other systems within other networks, and therefore we see here the second routing entry. The second routing entry is typically the default route. The default route always has a destination 0000 and the gain mask or the net mask 000002, 4 zeros, and then we have the gateway here. If you want to modify your routing table, you can do this with the root command too. Sudo root add, for instance. And now let's add a route. Let's say I wanna reach a different network via a different gateway. Let's say I have a network 192.168.100.0/24. That means every IP address starting with these three numbers, these three octets, these network packets shall be cached by this rule. And I have a gateway, sudo root add gateway, and the gateway is within my current network, the 172.31.0.254, for instance. Do I have an error here? Root add. Let's have a look. Doesn't make sense with host root. Oh, yeah. Okay, if you use the root command to add a root, you have to give the information if you want to add a root only for a single host, or if you want to add a root for a whole network. Root add, and I want to add a network root, and now I have added a network root without a -net command line switch. The root command takes the information for a host root, but I wanted to add a network root, and now I have a network root available, a second network root or a root for a second network. Sudo root -n shows me I have added this routing entry. So as soon as a packet tries to leave the system, I ping an IP address, and the IP address is within this defined network. Everything starting with 192.168.100 should be given to or handed over to the gateway with this IP address. If the destination is within this network, then just we don't need a gateway. Just write or put the packet on the wire. Or if we have a destination somewhere other than these two networks, then this is our default route that is responsible for routing these packets. Then we need to get this gateway. So the root command lets you read your routing table. Sudo root -n. You can add new routes and you can delete routes if you want to. Now I want to delete this route. And I can simply substitute the add and del command, the add and the del command line, option command line switch, and I don't need to add a gateway, just because the root command knows exactly which root to remove. Yeah, sudo root -net, and now the root has gone. Yeah, and please pay attention and remember the -n command line switch to avoid the resolving of IP addresses backwards to host names, just because host names most of the time doesn't fit into the column here. Yeah, so best way to call the routing table would be root -n. The root command is a deprecated command. This is an old Unix command, and on modern Linux systems, the root command is perhaps isn't available. Instead, you would use the IP tool for this, and the IP tool can do everything with your IP stack you need. Yeah, interface configuration and routing configuration and link configuration. And if you want to do a root configuration, then just use iproot for this. Yeah, let's do the same. We have done with the root command. Let's do this now with the IP command. Yeah, iproot. And first, I want to see the routing table. iproot show. Shows me we have a default gateway, shows me we have a local interface root here configured. Yeah, it's the same routing table, root-n shows me, but with a different layout and output. Yeah, iproot show. The IP command is a command for lazy people like me. Yeah, if I don't want to type in show, I simply can type in iproot, as show is the default action with the routing table, the IP command does. And as long as it is obvious what you want to accomplish, you can write fewer characters. Yeah, so the shortest thing I can do to print the current routing table is IP space R. Yeah, just because R or root is the only command line or sub command available starting with a character R. So IPR gives you the routing table. Yeah, as IP row, IP root, and so on. Yeah, as you like it. I like to write iproot. It's much better readable, I think. Now let's add a root. I want to add the root to my 192 and so on network. So iproot add. Now I say I want to add a root for 192.168.100.0/24, and I need a gateway for this network. So I need the keyword via. Yeah, all the packets to this destination needs to go via a gateway, and the gateway is 172.31.0.255, for instance. Yeah, this as root, so call it via sudo. And now I have added exactly the same root as before with the root command. Yeah, let's have a look. We have this routing entry added, and the command root, yeah, shows you, or root-n, yeah, shows exactly the same root. This is the root. This is the same root as the root over there. Yeah. Okay. So in this way you can add the root, and if you want to remove the root, simply call it with del and del, delete, iproot delete. And if you want to add a root that's not a root via a gateway, then you can do it with the iproot command too. Yeah, you can do it in this way, def eth0, for instance. Yeah, and now I've set to the kernel. Yeah, I have said if there is a packet addressed to a system, an address within this network, then please put it on the wire. I have an interface root configured. IP root shows me this. Yeah, this is a device root, an interface root, and the root-n shows me the same information, and again in different layout. Yeah, now I don't need a gateway, or I don't have a gateway configured for this network, but I have configured an interface root for this. Yeah, okay, so this is the root command. The root command, and today you will typically not use the root command, you will typically use the IP command with the root subcommand. Yeah, okay, so this was the episode for today, Random Linux Tools Explained. My name is Robert Wolfhardt. If you are interested in such tools, yeah, like the ones we talk about today, go to shelltoolbox.com, shelltoolbox.com as one single word, and there you can have access to the Shell Toolbox. Is a book I have written by request at first, by request from my clients, and yeah, this book gives you an overview, a reference about all the tools you need for your daily work at the Linux command line. And today you can have access to this book too. Yeah, shelltoolbox.com. If you're interested, go to shelltoolbox.com and have a look. I hope you enjoyed this short lesson. If you have questions, yeah, please leave the question in the comments. And if you're interested, see you next time.